All right, so welcome to episode 21 of the Go Squawk Experience with Susan Ha. Susan is a real estate professional for 13 years. She's done over 170 transactions, currently in 3 real estate flips herself. She's a real estate owner renting out properties. I'm assuming it's probably in the Ontario area. Last year, she launched her own coaching business for realtors. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
She's also in the top 10 at Remax offices, a mother of 2 girls, born in Canada, but also speaks fluent Vietnamese. So
Yeah.
welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much.
Our
Yes.
very first female entrepreneur Vietnamese guest.
No way. Alrighty. Well, what an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. And as per the Go Squawk tradition, we bring a beverage to profile the guests that we're speaking with. So today, I ran to the LCBO here and I quickly picked out a guava rose.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
this is a
nice.
very, very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
like the artwork here. It's very, very, very nice and classy artwork. And
Oh.
it's got a little bit of guava and Himalayan red salt. So let's give this a try.
Oh.
There we go.
What'd you bring, Danny?
So your profile really reminded me of a realtor that I also that I knew back several years ago, who also happened to be female, and she used to like drinking Martini Rossi. So I have a Martini Rossi right here. So
Oh.
if I could practice my Vietnamese a little bit, zo.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Yeah.
so cheers to you, Susan. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yep.
No
Thank you so much.
problem
We're very
at all.
honored to have you.
I am happy to be here chilling with you guys.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Is it salty?
Yeah, you can actually taste the salt and the guava.
Oh,
Very, very,
interesting.
very good addition. Yeah.
So just say we do not have any sponsorships with these beverage creators. However, from the way we talk about them, you would think we would. So keep that in mind. You know.
So, Susan, based on your profile, it did say that you have quite a bit of experience with the real estate market. Have you been working in real estate primarily in the GTA area your whole career?
Yeah, so pretty much GTA throughout my whole career. Being in it for so long, my clients have taken me left, right. Like I've sold as far as Brantford. You know where that is? Not Bradford,
Yeah,
Brantford. Yeah.
Brantford, where the casino is. Is
No,
that the one? No.
Hamilton, past Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
That's that
I
way.
just recently moved back, so my memory's a little bit.
And then I've, if you know where Bowmanville is, past Oshawa.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know what GTA means, they're talking about Grand Toronto Area. So for those of you who aren't Canadian.
So basically, what all the cities I'm saying is pretty much I'm going north to east, south to like everywhere, like on the map. And then I've gone up to Barrie, like that's far north. Although I do have somebody wants me to go more north, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. So everywhere.
During your long history in real estate, have you noticed any trends taking place with specifically in the Toronto real estate market or the surrounding area?
Like in terms of prices, you mean?
Well, prices, housing styles, things of that nature. Who's moving in, who's moving out?
Well, Toronto, we're quite lucky as in terms of being in a real estate market where Toronto has its, like a lot of major city might be alike. We have our own little bubble where it's like it's protected by itself, because the more closer to the core that you get, the more likely the prices are going to go up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just because Toronto has no more land. You can't create more land. There's no more land to be built, and so value it just tends to go up. In terms of people moving in, yeah, we're very multicultural, right? And so we have a lot of immigrations coming in. We have a lot of family who are settling down, and I've helped many families who's sold everything in their country and moved over here to set, and they all want to start in Toronto. Like everybody wants to be in Toronto or close enough. We have a good, I'm not sure good, but we have a TTC, like the bus transit, which attracts a lot of the people. Nowadays, I find that a lot of people are doing like, it's just recently come up, the multi-generation, where you have parents and kids living in the same household, but then they're separated. right? So we've been finding a lot of like it's peaking, like slowly coming into the picture a lot. So
do you find that more? Do you find that more amongst ethnic communities, or are Westerners doing that as well?
Actually, just it's mixture of everyone. Okay. It's just that the Toronto housing is quite, like, again, it's getting pricey. And so a lot of them thinking about, like, why would I buy a condo for a one bedroom when I can just, buy something that has kind of a separation between an upper and lower level, have my parents or siblings or somebody live on the other level, because they want to get the appreciation of like a freehold home, right? So like of a land. And so we find that is becoming more common. A lot of people are starting there as either a family joining together, or maybe friends. I've had friends buy together, and then in 3 to 5 years they would sell it and go their own ways.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. I recently read several reports that stated that Toronto was in like the top 5 most overbought hot real estate market in the world. Which it kind of makes sense, being in the housing market myself. I'm looking at prices, I'm like, oh my God, I should have stayed in Montreal.
or many years ago, you should have bought then instead of now.
Right. I mean, I have a funny story because my sister bought a pre-construction home in Markham, in like the Major Mackenzie and the 404 highway, I believe.
Yeah.
404. She bought it pre-construction for like a semi-detached house.
Yeah.
Pre-construction was roughly like 650,000 back in like early 2007. Now that same property is like, you can imagine, right? It's like it's like in the millions. Yeah. It's in the millions, right? So it's absolutely crazy. But I also read another report very recently that condo prices in Toronto has been dropping because of the oversupplied. Would you happen to have more information on this, and what are your thoughts on this?
So, so you got to think of it in terms. Okay, so back in about 2016, 17 was really when the condo prices started to pick up a lot, right? Like I remember some status were like, some numbers were like 20% a year that condo prices was rising.
Right.
And so right now it's not, I would say it's leveling out, because you've got a very, it's correcting itself up.
Right.
So it's dropping. If you're comparing 1 year to the other year, it will look like it's dropping, but they have such a good ride for the last 3 years.
Right. So it's kind of like a correction in the market.
A healthy correction.
It's like a healthy correction in the market.
A healthy correction. So it's not like it's dropping because it's a bad thing. It's dropping because they had like year over year 15%, 20% increases.
Right.
Yeah, I was in Toronto pretty recently. Excuse me. Actually, we went to Niagara, and we spent a little bit of time in Toronto. And I was really surprised to find out that a lot of those buildings on the skyline are new, as in like within the past 10 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of them are new. A lot of them. I think right now Toronto holds the world record for having the most cranes in the air.
Yeah, I did hear about that too. Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Well, so we've been having a good, healthy market because it's attractive, because if you compare Toronto to be a world-class city, so like New York, Vancouver, Tokyo, London, Toronto is still cheap. Well, maybe not right now. We're coming close to it, but in the past, 5-10 years, we've been the cheapest out of all those world-class cities. Where if you can like compare like a 1-bedroom in New York and a 1-bedroom Toronto, we're still a good deal.
Right. So while you're on the subject of New York, I'm not sure if you have read the recent trends in New York where there's like a mass exodus out of large city centers. And I think like the COVID-19 crisis had like a little bit to do with it, where employers no longer need a workforce in the city. They're more willing to allow workers to work from home, things like that. And that's leading people to leave the city because of the high living costs and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that in Toronto, the correction that we're seeing in the condo prices is a result of employers being more lenient on work from home? And do you think that trend will continue to persist, specifically in Ontario, and cause a ripple effect where people will begin to search for properties outside of the Toronto area?
Well, people has been searching outside Toronto area for some time now because of the pricing, right? So people searching outside Toronto is not quite new. So the most likely, what you really want to look at is how many people are actually selling their condo and then buying outside of Toronto, right? So we got to keep track of those numbers. But people buying outside of Toronto is really, really common because at 500,000 and they want a house, they're not getting anything in, like they're getting a condo in a house, and they already can't. They want a house, so they're not buying 1-bedroom condo.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I was literally in Milton like last weekend. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to find a place here, and then I go to Milton and I'm seeing even Milton is getting hot, right? So it's yes, you're correct that like the outskirts of Toronto has always had this problem where people try to move away from the city, but do you think it's now causing like these smaller towns and city outside of Toronto now are they starting to experience a bubbling market as well?
Well, let's see here. So not yet, I would say, because in the last 3 years, because on the outskirts of Toronto, we're talking about freehold. Because as soon as you leave Toronto, everybody wants freehold, right? And so freehold has, in the last couple of years, has been kind of stable because of 2017. We had that correction where the new rules, the new taxes came in. And so we took a little bit of a dip in the freehold. And so we've been going kind of like a stable, slowly upward trend. There are places that are hot, such as Durham. Durham has been really, really hot because pricing is very good and they have a lot of new development. So a lot of people have moved over to Durham, which made their market hot, right? And Milton, again, as soon as everybody's affordable, that area becomes really hot until then people will be like, wait, so why am I buying there? Why can't I buy Toronto? And then they'll kind of figure it out and then slow down the market around there.
Well, I mean, the reason why I'm asking you these questions is because myself as somebody who's in the market, I'm like, man, Brampton's a little bit expensive. I think I'm gonna go over to Milton, and I go over to Milton. I'm like, it's the same here. I'm not just saying Brampton. So I'm like, what do I do, Susan? I need help.
So the thing is, like the further away you get away from the heart of the city of Toronto, the bigger bang for your buck.
Right.
So that's basically it. Usually with the buyer, if you were my buyer, I would be like, okay, so how far are you willing to drive to work? How far are you willing to drive to amenities? Right? And then we work on that. And if you're like, well, I'm working from home, so I don't really mind. I'm like, okay, so we don't have to drive. Well, if I put you in Bradford, right? Will you be okay? Because then you'll get a bigger bang for your buck. You get a house, you get like 4-bedroom homes for the price of a condo downtown. And then I'm like, well, every time you want to see your friend, you would have to go in the 400, come down. If you want to see your parents, you got to go 400, come down. How many times will you be? And then your friends, will they come up and see you? Do you like having friends over? I don't know. Some people like, I don't want my friends to come over, and they move there, right? And so depending on, like, you're like, do you want to host? If you live too far, then no one's gonna come. Right. And then I find that a lot of people move outside the city. They have an intention of one day moving back into the city. It's really hard to do it that way because Toronto will out appreciate other cities around them. And so you're kind of like going against the trend. Like if Toronto goes up by 5%, your home gone up by 3%. Right. And so selling off yours may not be able to get you back in.
So what are the common financing situations that you typically see? Do you typically see people with a substantial down payment, or are they doing like a low down payment and accepting a different structure of mortgage? Because, we work in the financial markets and we're seeing a tremendous amount of people that basically just live paycheck to paycheck. So I'm wondering essentially what structures are available such that people can afford, these kind of prices.
A lot of people tend to want to, especially in Toronto, they want to do rental incomes. Like they would buy a house and rent the basement out. So that could help with their monthly payments. A lot of them will have, family or a family that lives with them that could help pay that too. I find that a lot of time, 20% down is something that a lot of mortgage agents say that is better for people to get into the real estate markets. Like their files are more acceptable to mortgage, right? You get your choice of buying a bigger home if you're 20% down. With 5% and 10%, you're very limited of the price that you get to buy.
How strict? Sorry, go ahead.
It's because the how big of a like home or big of a mortgage you get is purely based on your income.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So the more income you have, the bigger a house you can get.
Right. And with regards to the down payment, like, is it like a specific structure, or you have like flexibility with that? Because like I'm hearing like some people are saying, you know, like you need, you know, 5% down or 10% down with extremely good credit, or you can have 30% down with like very bad credit. Like, how does that work? How do lenders vet the people that they lend to for a mortgage?
So lenders base is based on your credit. So the better credit you have, the lower interest rate you have. So there's two parts of a mortgage, right? There you have your interest rate and you have the amount you can borrow. The amount you can borrow is based on your income, right? So even if you have excellent credit, but you have no income, like a low income, they still won't give you a big loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also so the higher the income you have, the bigger of a loan you can get. The better credit rating you have, the lower interest rate you'll get. If you have bad interest rate, bad credit, then you'll just get very high interest rates.
What's the kind of bare minimum for you know, being accepted?
5%.
No, in terms of credit score.
Credit 680. I believe they just changed it in July. It's 680 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it did kind of wean off some people. So the people who had like 650 and 640 who could have bought a home, then had to wait a little bit longer to improve their credit ratings to get a home.
So they actually increased it then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they basically made it tougher for a lot of people. Now,
first-time home buyers.
Yeah, I always found this to be quite interesting about the real estate market. You know, growing up in Canada myself, I've always kind of like had the feeling that, you know, if you grew up in Canada and you weren't fortunate enough to get a good education and a good job, and you didn't have the means of earning enough cash to save up for a 5, 10, 20% down payment, specifically in markets like Toronto or Mississauga or any of the surrounding areas, which could be a substantial amount of down payment. How do you think a lot of people get around the large amount of down payment that you would need to make? I mean, like 20% on $1 million home is $200,000. How does a young adult save $200,000 for a home?
So basically, how does all the millennials are gonna buy a home now, right?
Exactly, right? Like people in my age group, we're all like, oh well, you know what, I'm just staying in mom's basement for a little bit longer.
So there's a few ways to go around it. First of all, if you can do your best, you gotta live below your means. That's basically it, right? Keep your iPhone for more than 2 years or something like that, right? Don't line up for the iPhone, like things like live below your means so that you do have that extra cash. Someone told me that if you save $200 a month, starting at the age of 20, by the time you retire, you have $1 million, right? So not just for saving an investment, like, things like that. But so you just got to figure out how you're going to do that. Now, when people come to me, I go, if you have enough to do 5% and get something, I don't know, like anything, like whatever you can get in real estate. If you have 5, like right now you come to me, you're like, I have 5%, what can I do? I'm like, let's find something that you can buy. And then let's just, you don't have to live in it. Just invest in it, rent it out, right? Because the appreciation is appreciating much faster than you can save. So does it make sense for you to save to chase the market?
Right.
So
yeah.
If first of all, that would be saving your own money, right? And invest into things like safe, like a low risk mutual bond fund or something that it grows on the side a little bit as you're saving. And once you get like a good amount of like 5%, so like let's say 30,000, 40,000 around there, you can either go find something very small and buy it and wait for that to grow, rent it out, or combine it with somebody that you know. Right. You can always invest with a friend. If your friend has 25,000, you have 25,000. There you go, 50,000.
Yeah.
Right. That's like 10% of a $500,000 home.
Oh, that's some solid Susan Ha advice right there. So actually, I have a question for you. Like with regards to like real estate investing, like do you think it's rallying enough to the point where like it can actually beat like the like S&P 500, for example? Like I know like the S&P 500 like traditionally yields like what, like 7% year over year. Do you think the real estate market can keep up with that level, or if not even beat it?
So I don't know a lot about stocks and on that side of the world. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just heavily based into real estate. What I know, just your house price
Mm-hmm.
doubles every 8 to 10 years. So if you have a $500,000 freehold home in Toronto and you
Mm-hmm.
bought it about 8 years ago, it's probably worth $1 million today. So how much is that year over year? I don't like don't know.
Well, like an 8 year period, if it doubles, you're probably looking at like
16% or something like that.
16. Yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
it definitely outbeats the stock market. That's for
Right?
yeah.
sure.
So
So
the
what are you
average
putting?
return year over year for the S&P was 12%, I believe.
It was twelve
Yeah.
percent.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, it does. It does.
yeah. Well, that's what happens when you live in a bubble market.
Yeah,
You're
and
better off
that
parking your money there.
which leads me to my next question. You were mentioning how you're investing in houses to flip them.
Yeah.
How would you protect yourself against some of the risks, right? The downside risks, like what if the market just collapses one day? Or
Yeah.
how would you, maybe not necessarily you personally, but for those
But
of us who are
company.
getting interested
Yeah.
in what you're saying, getting our hopes up about real estate. We have this all the time with our traders. They see us make a good trade, they want to do it too, and then all of a sudden, and they're gone, right? So
Yeah.
our big thing here at Go Squawk is risk management. Okay,
Yep.
so that's like, it's not so important that you make $1 million on your trade in the first year, rather than to see you still be trading 5 years from now. Okay, so
Yes.
if any of our listeners get involved into real estate, I want to make sure I did my diligence to make sure that they're still in the game 5 years from now and they didn't blow up. Like I had a buddy who, just this is an aside, but this was back in 2008. Of course, we all remember what happened in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like an IT guy, made a very good salary, but he had 5 houses, and he rented them all. All of a sudden, when that happened, he lost all of his renters all at once, and so
Oh.
he lost those 5 houses plus his house that he
Oh,
was
no.
living in and his car.
Wow.
So luckily, this dude is a fairly prolific entrepreneur, so he was able to come back stronger. But
Right.
for the time, he was, for a couple of years there, he was, in not too good shape. So I was just wondering if you had any advice for anybody who wanted to maybe go that route, how they could protect themselves.
Yes, definitely. I get this question all the time, especially with people who come to me and they want to invest into real estate, right? I do the pros and cons for them all day long, all the time. So basically, let's take the flipping part first, right? So I always ask my clients, like, if we flip it and it doesn't sell, because that's a part of it, because that's what you're planning to do, or if the real estate is not good at the time, right? Can you live in it? That's it. Like, if you can live in it, that means that means you're just kind of paying for shelter. You're gonna have to live somewhere anyways. You're not gonna live somewhere for free. You're gonna have to live in it. So because usually that's is the very first one that I talk to with. They don't have multiple ones, right? It's the very first one. They're like, should I buy to live? Should I buy to invest? Should I flip? What should I do? I'm like, if you do flip, right, and it looks nice, it looks gorgeous, will you be able to live in it if you can't sell it for a year or 2, 3 years? Can you hold on to the debt that you got onto because you put some money into the house? Will you be able to carry that? Now, it's not forever, because real estate long term is safe. All like 5 years, 10 years, it's always winning in 5 or 10 years in real estate. There's no losing. In Toronto, you're really like, there's no more land for them to produce for you to buy. That the prices has nowhere to go but up.
Well, not only that, but it's a physical thing, right?
It is a physical.
I think one of the things that scared people, or at least the big revelation that a lot of people had with especially the COVID thing, is that the stock market is so inflated and so esoteric. There's a lot of derivatives on the market. People don't even know what that means, right? But it's not even a thing, right? At least theoretically with, shares, you have a piece of that company, but still, like, what does that even mean? right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I buy gold, if I buy bonds, if I buy a house, that is a physical thing that I can keep.
Tangible. You can
Yep.
touch it, you can see it, you can
Yep.
look at it. So my risk, usually what I tell my clients is like, if you say that if you flip it, you can't sell it and you can live in it for 2 years, then you're good. You're good. In 2 years and 3, like even in 2017, when people have bought houses and then like right at the tip of it, and it dropped like 100,000, like 2 weeks later, and everyone's like freaking out. So I was like, I had buyers who moved into their home and called me. They're like, my house dropped 100,000. I overpaid. I'm like, are you selling? They're like, no. I'm like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it drops. When you sell, then we'll look at the market to see what it is then, and we'll make a decision based on the market when you need to sell. But if you're telling me you're going to live in here for the next 5 years, it doesn't matter where it drops right now. So everyone,
oh my God.
calm down.
That's very good advice, and it mirrors
Calm
the
down.
advice that we give our students when they're investing in stocks. For example, you know, if like the Apple example is a great example, right? I was and I've been bringing this up every podcast, but it was a really great call that we had. Apple, first of all, they split, then the price dropped to 107, and my trader senses started going crazy, and I'm like, listen, if I don't invest in this right now, I'm going to be kicking myself 2 years from now when Apple's at like $240, right? Yeah. So I roped this guy into it. He got into the trade too, and he was a little bit more trepidatious than I am. I got in at 107. He's like, and so dropped to 105. Then it went back to 107. So his FOMO price was my price. But my point is that, you know, when Apple was 107, I'm like, listen, this motherfucker can go to 90 for all I care. You know, if it goes to 90, I'm just going to be buying all the way down, because I know that this is a $1 billion company. They have billions in revenue. It's almost free money, right? Yep. And so if you have that kind of attitude, now granted, if this was a day trade, right, of course I have a different hat that I wear when I'm doing day trades, right? Because you want to short scalp, right? The analogy would probably be like with you and flipping, if you don't want to live in it, you know what I mean? Like you want to be able to get in and out in a short amount of time. But if you're a long-term buyer, a long-term hold, which is kind of like the investing mode I'm in right now, I'm the CTO of Go Squawk. I have technical responsibilities that unfortunately preclude me from trading right now, but that doesn't mean that I don't invest, right? And I'm watching my stocks every day and stuff like that. So the point is that you have that. It depends on what hat you're wearing, right? If you have that long-term hat, then you don't care if it's fluctuating 5-10% even, right? Because you're looking for the long term.
Yeah, even right now, a lot of people come to me and they go like, should I even buy a condo right now? They're dropping like crazy, and well, they think it's dropping like crazy, and there's no renters out there, and the renting market is not good. Some of my landlords are saying that, you know, my rent now no longer can pay for my mortgage, and I have to explain to them, I'm like, you guys, COVID is like a short-term effect. Things will go back to the new normal. Like university will open up, and then students will need homes again. So you're not making money right now. That's okay. It's short term, 1 year, 2 year, and in the long term, 3 year, on your 3rd year, your 4th year, when the students needs those houses, international students are coming back in. It's back to what you were last year. So everybody looks for the now.
And theoretically, if they can't withstand that for a couple of years, they probably shouldn't be in the game, right?
That's what I always look at. That's why when they flip a house or when they buy an investment, especially new construction, people come to me. They're like, "Can I buy new construction? I heard it's a really good deal. You make money off of it." I'm like, "Yes." So if you can't rent it out, can you move into it? That's my question, because that's my safety net.
Right. So Susan, on that note, how many real estate investors or owners do you know who tried to take advantage of the rising real estate market and began to over leverage themselves by refinancing to buy another house to rent out, refinancing, buy another house to rent out? And I came across several of these people who have like 4, 5, 6, 7 properties that they own that are specifically for rental properties. And now with the COVID challenge, where the renters are facing uncertainty with regards to their job and their income, and they may not be able to pay. And if that happens to be the case, what happens to that real estate investor that owns 4 or 5 houses and now he's stuck with the mortgage?
The best bet is to sell. There's nothing like, if it's too much for you to handle, why are you handling them all? Right? Because right now the selling market is hot. Like 50% of the market is in multiple offers.
That's amazing. How closely that mirrors the stock advice that we see. We have, often we have these people coming to us panicking. Our students, they show us a big portfolio and it's all red, and they're saying, "Oh, what should I do? What should I do?" And we're just like, sell everything. Just deal with it.
if you can't take it,
absolutely.
Right, then you have 5 properties and you can't sleep at night. Then why do you have 5? Keep 1.
Yeah.
You've got money right now in those, you have money in 5 properties, right? Did you not? Yeah. You like our banks in Canada, they're good. They're not going to allow you to like refinance 100% of it. They want you to have money in there, no matter how creative you get to like get money out of the house. They will make sure that you have some kind of money in there, right? And so with 5 houses, I'm guessing at least 3 of them have equity, or like break even equity. So break even, like as in the same amount of money you put in, you're getting back out. So you're actually not losing, you're just kind of breaking even. People think like in real estate, it's funny. It's when they're, they forget how much money they actually put in and they actually take out. They kind of think about the imaginary money that they lost as real loss.
Oh, unrealized gains or losses, just like the markets.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's like in financial markets, like you have somebody who owns a stock and the stock goes up like 70%. They go, "Yay, I'm rich," right? Yeah. But until you sell, that money is not in your bank account.
We have this all the time with our students, especially our new students, right? When they take a trade and they're on side 20 ticks, right? And so they took their profits and they're like, yeah, but then it rises another 20 ticks and they're like, "Oh man, you told me to take profits now." It's like, yeah, is your account green or is it not? Right? You can't sit there and take into account those unrealized gains, because I guarantee you that person would not have come to me if it went and retraced back all of those gains, and he wouldn't have come to me and said, "Oh, I broke even," right? Because he would have taken profits at that point. So your mind only thinks about those imaginary roulette dollars that you're not making.
Yeah. Same thing. So that person has 5 properties, can't sleep at night, sell off 4 and keep 1.
Sell off 4. Have you ever thought of like trading or investing in the markets? Because you definitely have the mindset to be like a good investor or a trader. I mean, it's just the jargon. Like flipping is a trade. Yeah,
but it's also the mentality, right? And that's kind of why I was because I know very little about real estate. We've had a couple people on the show that have like a little bit of experience, but they're not full-time like you. They're not 100% in the game like you. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to feel it out, because it seems like there's so much overlap between that and trading. It's just obviously the time frames are different and stuff like that. But the mentality, right? It seems like,
it's the same. Mm-hmm. So like, again, when the market crashed, right? Like a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Oh, real estate is overpriced. We're going to get in a bubble. I'm not going to buy it right now. And then I'm going to wait until it crashes to buy." Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, "When it crashes, you won't be buying." And they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, because when you buy a home at $500,000 and I'm going to tell you it's worth $450 on closing, would you buy it? No. You'd be like, why would I buy something that's losing? Like, but that's a crash. Like that's the market going down, because everybody wants the market to go down to buy a home. I'm like, you do not want to buy in that market. You think you do, but the reality is, I sell it for $500 on closing date. It's $450. Like you've just lost $50,000 in 6 months. Like, do you want that? No. You always want to buy when it's going up. So the day that you buy, it's 500, and the day that you close, it's 550. Yeah, you're golden. Why would you ever buy in a downward swing when you can buy an upward swing? Now, if it goes down, you should buy multiple properties. Like you're like,
there you go. Okay. I knew there had to be a caveat to
that. Disclaimer.
You buy one at 500, and then you have money. You're buying another one at 450 because you're like. Because in real estate, the long-term wins.
Right.
Long-term wins. How many times have I heard the story that, "Oh, Susan, my neighbor who lived there and bought it for like $50,000 is now selling it for like $1.5 million." I'm like, right? Like, I'd be like, yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Yeah. So in investing in real estate, for the people who are looking to just invest, right? I would say you get a safety net, meaning that if you can't sell it, you can't rent it, and you flip it, you have to live in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you don't want to lose, or if you're okay to cutting loss, because a lot of time the first flip is a lesson learned. If you break even on your first flip, good, take it, because you learn.
Yeah, we say the same with trading. Like if you can survive, you can survive your first year without blowing up your account, and if you could break even, then you're golden.
Take it.
You're good.
Yeah, you paid off all the lawyers, the real estate agent, the contractors, the debts, and you broke even. That's value. Like, that knowledge will multiply your next flip, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then like I said, just worst case scenario, break even or live in it, you're good. Like in real estate, the longer you hold, the more you win.
Awesome. So, Susan, I have a question for you with regard to like interest rates and macroeconomics. The governor of the Bank of Canada pretty much stated that they're going to be keeping interest rates, the overnight rate at 0.25% for at least 2 years.
Oh God have mercy on Toronto.
Right. So.
Oh dear.
Right.
Like.
So. What are consumers looking at like right now? Like, are you like
buy everything you can?
Whatever. Oh my God.
Whatever's on the market, like
whatever's on the market.
If they're selling like a parking spot, buy it. It's free money. It's free money.
Yeah, because I mean, like one of the side effects of low interest rates is that it allows people to borrow at very cheap rates, right? So obviously mortgage payments are going to be very, very low. And the Bank of Canada already told you how long they're going to stay low, right?
Oh, wow.
At least 2 years, right?
Yeah, so this is an environment where essentially money is free. And I was watching another financial
Literally,
podcast.
you can get a stone check for sitting at home.
Yeah, like, so, the guy's point was basically like, years from now, you're going to be looking back and asking, what was I doing when money was free? And I think a lot of people are going to be having some regrets if they don't take advantage of the fact that money's free.
Yep. Yeah, I like the price in real estate, right? The price of real estate is, it depends on the interest rate too. So the higher the interest rate, the lower the price. Mm-hmm. And the lower the interest rate, the higher the price gets.
Well,
yeah, that makes sense, right? Because with the lower interest rate, you'd have the buying power to get the higher price home and vice versa.
Yeah, there's more demand. The more demand will lead to higher prices. So with interest rates at the current levels, do you think it could ever go into negative interest rates here in Canada?
I don't know. I hope not, because then I don't know what I'm going to do. Like people are.
Negative interest rates. Negative interest rates have a lot of bad consequences, right? And so just because you say negative interest rates, just for the people who don't understand how the rates work, what we're talking about is the the effective central bank rate. Okay, so if that's negative, that doesn't mean that you could. That doesn't mean that the bank will give you money to buy a house. Okay, just so everybody's on the same page.
TD's giving you a $50,000 check to buy a house.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to RBC, line up, you're getting a check.
Because as we all know, that there's administrative costs and things like that the banks tag onto that. So it's actually closer, at least in the US anyway. I believe they track the 10-year closer than they track the the federal funds rate. But of course, everything, it's a trickle down effect. So everything is going to track that at some point. Right. But, with the administrative costs, I think in the US, you're looking at just above 2%. I actually think in Canada, it's a little better. We're looking in the ones, right?
It's super low right now.
Yeah, in Canada, we track the 10-year Canadian government bonds, and with the way things are going, the CGBs is like trading at like a couple basis points just below 1. Nice. I believe and so the banks on top of that, they're like, all right, you need a mortgage, we'll just give you like prime plus a couple points on top.
It's crazy. Like a side note on interest rate and pricing, right? Because a lot of people are there, they forget that the interest rate is so low. They're so hung on to the price. Because in Toronto, when you go to multiple offer, you're going like 100,000, 150,000 over asking, and people get really nervous when they pay so much over asking, right? It's just like 15 offers on one home kind of thing. And they're like, it's too high, it's too like the thing is, when a lot of people are like, I'll wait until it drops 100,000 to buy a house. And I go, if the house thing dropped by 100,000, that would mean the interest rate has gone up significantly in order for that to happen.
Right.
So the interest rate would be like what, 7-8% for it to drop $80,000. So my question then to my investor who's thinking about all these things, I'd be like, if I gave you a mortgage at 8%, would you take it? And then they would look at me, they're like, no, like, why would you? I'm like, exactly. So right now it's 2%, buy it at $1 million. It's the cost the same thing.
Yeah, it's very good. That's a very good counterpoint.
That's a really good point.
It's a very good counterpoint, and something that I don't think, especially a lot of people who aren't finance minded, think about. You know, and it's a fact that the car, for example, the car industry, right? They try to get you hooked on a rate, you know, because hooked on the loan, and they actually discourage cash buying. Why? Because they're interested in the interest. Okay, because the buyer. A lot of times the buyer, they just want a low payment. Okay, so they'll hold that car for 30 years if they have to, right? In order to pay like $200 a month or something like that, not realizing or not caring that they're paying double or triple the car's value in interest payments when you propagate that much time.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I agree.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree totally. It's when buying a home, I have to make them understand it's the cost that matters, right?
It's bottom line.
Bottom line is cost, but also you got to remember, like, you would want to borrow more at a lower interest rate than borrow less at a higher interest rate.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because it's that interest rate that racks up over time.
So it's like buying a used car to a new car. Like, yes. I went through this myself. Like, if a used car, it's way less cheaper. It's like $15,000 cheaper. But then they give you an interest rate of like 5%.
Right.
And then you go buy a brand new car, and they're like, it's like $20,000 more, but you get like 1% interest. Right. Yeah. So I sit and work out my monthly costs. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why would I buy a used car?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
does that go with what you're trying to say? Does that go with?
No, it's absolutely correct. That's exactly my point, right? And not only that, but the time frame too, right? Because people will be more interested to kick the can down the road to get the lower payment, even though they could potentially be incurring more interest, right? Because they don't think about those things.
So, like, on buying a home, whoever's investing, I usually encourage only 2 types of down payment. So either you go 5% or you go 20%. It doesn't make sense to me to go anything in between, because the 20%, we have like the mortgage default insurance here in Canada, right? And so once you pass 20%, you don't have to pay that mortgage default insurance. You save yourself like 20 grand or something like that. And with 5%, you want to do, like, if you're going to do 10%, you might as well, if the bank gives you 5%, take it, right? Like, they're like 5%, you're like, good, save your extra 5% and go invest it somewhere else, because they're giving you money to go invest, because you're borrowing their money at what, 2%? Right? So for me, it doesn't make sense if you do 10% or 5% if the bank allows you 5%. Leave that extra cash outside to, I don't know, do the roof as a safety net, invest into stocks, whatever it may be, that will give you better return than dumping it into your house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, good.
What do you think of reinvesting back in your home in order to keep the value or increase the value of your property? Do you think that's a wise decision? Like, if somebody has like, let's say like $40,000 idle, and they have like a home that's like 20 years old, do you think it'd be wise to like reinvest back into the home, or would it be better to just kind of like move on to the next one?
Depending on when you're planning to sell the home. So a lot of people, they would change out their countertops before they sell the house. And I'd be like, well, why didn't you do that last year so you can enjoy it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, when I sold my house, I completely redid the bathroom. It had like marble walls in it, and I never even took a shower in that bathroom.
Well, marble is a different story. Marble, you can't really, it actually wears down quite a bit. So I would understand that. Like there's things that I don't understand. Like yes, invest to your home, but also enjoy it. If you're gonna invest today in hardwood floors and sell it 10 years from now, right? Then I'll be like, maybe that's not a good investment because in 10 years it might be worn out already and it might not be as valuable.
Yeah, it needs
right?
fixing.
Right. So it depends on what you're fixing too. Like some people pour like 20,000 into landscaping, and I go, when like that's not the best value for your investing to your house. Like put 20,000 somewhere else in the house that gives a little bit more value than landscaping.
So
right?
where would those the main focal points be in order to extract the best bang for your buck, so to speak, if you're willing to put money into the house?
Kitchen, washroom, and windows.
Windows. Okay, that's
Windows.
one I hadn't heard of.
Yeah, I had to imagine like roofing or something like that. I don't know why I always think of a roof.
Roof, yeah. Well, there in a home, there are 5 major costs of a home, which is roof, window, electrical, plumbing, and furnace AC. So those are the 5 major kind of what's it called? What's the word? I'm lost for words. Expense. 5 major expense of a home, right? Because a roof, some people they're more willing to change out roofs, like a new buyer. They're more willing to, okay, I'll get a roofer to come in. It doesn't disrupt anything. But a window, people are more hesitant to change because it's also costly. It's like 10 grand. Depending.
It's very expensive for new windows. Yeah, I found that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
really, like
windows make a big difference.
Well, especially for you, for you guys in Canada.
They got a couple of windows over there. I was like, really? That thing's gonna cost 10 grand to fix?
Well, I mean, all of
not
them,
just
right?
one, like all of them.
Okay.
Because first of all, it's not like a house has one window, right? There's usually like 1, sometimes 2 in each room, and if you have a 4 or 5 bedroom house, that adds up really quickly. And second of all, if you add anything, like in Florida, we kind of have like the opposite problem of you. Like we want to get rid of heat. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to reflect the sun and do all kinds of things with the shielding or whatever for our energy costs during the summer. With you guys, I imagine it'd be the opposite. You're trying to do everything you can to keep that heat in during the winter so that you're not siphoning it away and diffusing it away, and your electricity costs will be saved a lot.
Yeah, because new windows will insulate better for heating.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why, like windows, they say 25 years, but the quality of the windows sometimes don't last that long anymore, right? Like the gas has to be kept there. And when you do change the windows, like the trend now is to get black windows, right? So if you're, some people cheat and they kind of just paint the outside black. I'm like, no.
The poor man's upgrade. The poor man's up. You spent all the money on the house.
That's right. Some people do that, right? Like the trend, like as I drive on the street and I see someone who do black windows, I know they just upgraded their windows. Everyone's white right now, right? So as soon as you do that, it pops out.
We have a similar thing in Florida with the window tinting. You can always tell who cheaped out on the window tinting because there's bubbles.
Have you ever seen tinfoil?
Yeah, I've seen them on condos. I feel like, what? Although some condos will the management will come and tell you to take it off because it doesn't go with the.
It clearly doesn't match the aesthetic. I mean, it depends on what aesthetic they're looking for. Are they going for the Unabomber look, or?
I'd imagine the neighbor would be pretty pissed. He'd be like, "Yo, this dude's ruining the value of my condo."
Yeah, no. I've in my years, I went to houses that I've seen, quite interesting things. Like, I've seen tinfoil on even houses on windows. Yeah.
Awesome. So what are some of the crazier things you've seen in people's houses?
Oh, I don't know. Top of my head, I can't remember anything. Oh, well, like on a showing once, I walked in and I said, I knocked on the door, no one answered. I opened the door and I'm like, hello, and no one answered. And then we got to the bedroom, someone's in the shower.
Whoops.
I was like, I do not want that person to walk out at the moment I'm in the bedroom.
Oh my gosh. Whoops.
Whoops.
And so we were quickly, you know, like leaving the place. But like I've seen like washer dryers from the 50s.
Oh
Oh my
wow.
God.
Like yeah, like I've seen ancient.
Hey, they probably
things.
still work.
Yeah, they seller claim it works better than the things they do.
Yeah, they don't make them like they used to, right?
Yes, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
well, one thing I appreciate is those things. They have like 3 settings. With my washer dryer, it's like I need a college degree to figure out how to use that fucker.
I
Like,
know. Yeah, like
it's like, it shouldn't have an IP address. It shouldn't have to connect to my Wi-Fi.
well, it keeps on wanting to connect to my Wi-Fi. I know, and I'm like, I just like sometimes it comes out wet. I'm like, okay, so how do you spin this thing? And
Yeah.
I'm like googling it. I'm like, where's the manual? And I'm like, no,
Yeah,
that's
or
not
like
it.
if it didn't work when you know, in the 50s or whatever, if it didn't work, you knew, okay, it's like one of 3 things. Now I get an error code. I'm like, what does error number 86 mean? Why won't you work?
Like you get like a DRC. I'm like,
Yeah.
DRC.
I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
like,
pretty
now
soon. Pretty soon it's gonna ask you for your banking details, personal information, data.
Pretty much. Like when I go through the security question nowadays, I'm like, do you want my blood type too? Or like...
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow. So Susan, we usually run our show for about an hour's time, so we pretty much are coming near the end of the show.
Already, wow.
Yeah, you know,
Time
you'd imagine
flies.
how fast a conversation like this goes on, right? I mean, you get my point where it's not like an interview.
Yeah, no, I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, do you have any last questions for us, or Danny, you have any last questions for Susan?
Yeah, just real quick, what would be if so for people who are thinking about entering the market, the real estate market, what would be your, you know, sage advice for them to a place to start, right? Because we have a lot of new people coming to us. Our Discord is all about that, actually. New investors trying to figure out, you know, what to do, whether they want to be traders, whether they want to invest in their stocks. We have some 15-year-old kids coming in, and these kids are sharp, right?
Oh,
and so it's amazing to see these young people start off on the right foot, because as you know, with finance, there's a lot of scams out there. Okay. So, you know, we have you on because we trust your reputation, we trust your judgment, and we admire you as a business person. So if you had any sage advice for our young listeners or people who wanted to get into it, you know, we'd appreciate if you could share that.
Oh, I would love to share. My daughter, she's at that age where we're like, okay, it's time to get a condo. And so my advice is, whatever money you have that can buy something in real estate, you should do it and hold it, right? It's something on the side that one day when you actually want to buy a bigger house, that you can sell that and buy your bigger. It's like it's your future home. I always tell my clients that when you're buying real estate, you have no idea what you're buying. You're not buying like 4 walls and a roof. You're buying your financial future, right? So you are actually buying, like, if one day when you if you do nothing with the house, you just buy one and you go to like you're 65 and you're old, that house is now your retirement plan, right? If you buy the house and 10 years from now and you have kids and that kid want to buy a home and you want to help them out, your home is now, it has equity and you can help that your kids. If one day you want to open up, I don't know, like a restaurant, right? And that's your dream. Because you invested into that condo, now that condo has grown in equity, doubled in price, sell that and you can start your dream. So whatever it is that you can do right now, you can get your hand on, whatever, gather all the money that you can. If you can't do it on your own, do it with a partner, joint venture kind of thing, and get something that you can hold on for a very long time. And then
call grandma, call mom, dad.
Anyone who can, like, if you have 60,000 and that 60,000 can buy you like a $300,000 condo, just go, right? Because that 300 will either grow up to 4, 5, 600 one day. Like and even if you rent it out for your whole life, imagine you never lived in it and all you did was rent it for your whole life. In 25 years, it's paid off. Where are you losing there?
You're amazing.
That's amazing.
That's amazing advice.
Well, Susan, thank you very much for spending an hour with us and sharing some fantastic advice about the real estate market in Toronto and the GTA area.
Thank you so much. We're honored to have you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear you share. I love sharing my knowledge, advice, anything. I always tell all my clients, any question you ever have, always let me know. I'm more than happy to share the information, get you answers anytime.
There's still so much more we can still discuss. I mean, like I was still very interested in talking about your coaching for realtors. That could also be very,
speaking
very
of which, yeah,
interesting as
we
well.
always give our guests at the end of the show or during or wherever, we always give our guests the opportunity to plug themselves. So if you have a book, if you have your coaching business or whatever, please, say it right here, and also send it to us in the link so we can put send it to us so that we can put that link in the description for you.
Oh, okay. So could I get my plug right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So, yes, last year I started a coaching business for realtors. I guess last year there was a time where I was thinking in my life, I did real estate for so long, and it just felt like not meaningless, but just not motivated. It's like, I'm like, there must be more to life than this, was the voice that kind of went in my head. And I brought everything to ground zero. So meaning, like, if I did something for the rest of my life and never got paid a penny for it, what would I do for the rest of my life? Right. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what I love to do is teach. I love it. Right. And I find that it took me 13 years to get where I am. And I don't want someone who's recently getting into the business. So your listeners, if anybody's thinking about getting the real estate license and don't know where to go, where to start, I would be more than happy to give them a call to kind of push them in the right direction. I don't want them to spend 13 years, trial and error like I did.
Well, that's a very interesting proposition that you just mentioned there, because I know Danny and I had aspirations of expanding our online programs to not only cover financial markets, but we also wanted to cover alternative investing, because there's multiple ways that people could participate, whether it be through art, through watches, vehicles, whatever the case may be. While we have you here, we'll put you on the spot. Would you be interested in collaborating with us in possibly developing some type of real estate program to reach a new audience and pass on valuable information that beginners would see lots of use for?
Oh, wow. That sounds like right up my alley. Like sharing information to people who's getting into the business. That's what I do. So
yeah,
that would be amazing.
That'd be amazing. So yeah, if you're interested in that, we'll do Go Squawk Real Estate. I mean, our core AI technology is very ubiquitous and very it has the ability to be applied into different markets, not just stocks.
I can't believe I didn't think of discussing this with you, but basically we consider ourselves a fintech company, right? And the reason for that is there's just because originally we started off as teaching together, right? But unfortunately, there's just so many scams out there that it takes so long to earn people's trust that we decided to brand ourselves more as a fintech company that offers trading courses in how to use the technology rather than just go straight for education, right? So I developed an AI that is able to assess the risk sentiment in the markets. Okay, so basically all trading is driven by an understanding of the risk sentiment. Okay, so if it's a risk-off environment, investors will pull money from stocks, put them into bonds, and vice versa. Okay, so the good news about that is I designed this system to be easily extendable. So
we can apply to the real estate market.
Well,
like
that's my
risk on
point.
risk off sentiment analysis.
That's what I'm getting to. So we actually just recently added cryptos, right? So cryptocurrencies are a very different game, not for everybody, but the news for that works very differently than it does for the traditional financial markets. And I'm sure the same would be applied to real estate, right? I'm sure that you have your sources that you read and the data that you follow in order to help you make decisions as to the climate of the market or certain actions that you might take. And so keep in mind that this technology is something that we could easily extend to the types of things you're potentially looking at.
Oh wow, that's very interesting. Quite a lot of information there. That's a boatload of things for me to absorb.
well, I mean, like, first and foremost, it starts with people who are passionate about the fields that they're working in, right? And obviously, you need to have that desire and that eagerness to transform yourself and to motivate yourself to stay within one career for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
And for somebody like you who's worked in the business for so long and you transition into the teaching space and finding a passion for it, I think this would be something that would be really up your alley. And because we focus more on the technology side of markets, applying AI, machine learning technologies to investing, not just in traditional markets, but also in real estate, in investments like vehicles, arts, watches, whatever the case may be. We are also actively and always on the lookout for people who share similar points of view with regards to investing, and people who are specialists in their niche. And so when we come across people like yourself, we always have to throw it out there and say, if there's an opportunity where we can collaborate or make something great happen together, we'd always want to extend the invite, especially for somebody like yourself, which, we had a great time talking to you for an hour.
And, the time flew by. I didn't even know where it went. No, I love it. I love sharing because, again, throughout my career, I just learned all this on my own. I didn't have anyone much guidance. I didn't know where to go, where to turn, kind of thing. And so I find that when I think real estate agents have like an 80% dropout, like after 2 or 3 years or something like that. They just kind of not want to do anymore. And I find that real estate agent, we're not special. We're entrepreneurs.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to get people to like agents to understand. I'm like, you're not special, you're entrepreneur. You need to learn about all these things that like a normal business person do to run their business.
Yeah, it's not like a 9-to-5 type of thing where you just go, you pull some levers or whatever and you go home. This is your business, and it's your business when you're sleeping too.
Yeah. And so I share all aspects of the real estate, like everywhere getting started, and everywhere from getting started, the mindset, the understanding that you're an entrepreneur, how to talk to clients, what you should share, like everything, like how to guide your clients the right way while I'm trying to guide the agent in the right path too. So it's like multiple kind of things going on at the same time there.
Well, this is definitely interesting. Awesome. And we could probably carry this conversation on for another hour if we had the time.
Probably.
We'll definitely need to keep in touch with you. And we'll shoot you off an email. And we'll keep in touch and we'll carry the conversation.
We'd love to have you on for a follow-up segment sometime.
Oh, I'd be honored to come back. I was like, again, like I felt like it's only been like 15, 20 minutes. I can't believe it's been an hour. Wow. Well, I'd be more than happy to come back. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
All right. Well, Susan Ha, thank you so much again for coming on our show. Keep it spooky.
Keep it spooky, everybody. # what drink are you?
Awesome. Thanks again, guys.
Let me stop recording.
Okay. You stop.